Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton joins us to talk about the city's efforts in handling a $38 million budget deficit. Also tonight, a discussion on the problem of child abuse in Arizona. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The U.S. Supreme Court today refused to hear arguments to lift an injunction against part of Arizona's controversial SB 1070. The High Court decided without comment to let stand an injunction against a statute that makes it illegal to transport or harbor illegal immigrants. The statute had been blocked by a federal judge and upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Governor Brewer says she is, quote, disappointed by today's decision. Once a month, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton joins us in studio to discuss a variety of municipal issues, including budget concerns, something very much at the forefront of the city's affairs. Here now is Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton. Good to see you again.
Good evening. Happy to be on again.
All right, let's get it going here now. There was a plan to raise taxes and a plan to raise fees. Was it okayed? Was it okay to look? I thought it was okayed like with a small O and a small K.
All right, and this is often a difficult thing for people to understand how we do our budgeting process. At the City of Phoenix, we have a hyper-public budgeting process. In fact, it's very different than how they do business at the state legislature, for example, where there might be backroom deals and then there is a budget hearing, but it's almost a fait accompli. In the City of Phoenix, the city manager will propose a budget, and then the mayor and council will take that on the road and we'll do dozens and dozens of budget hearings across the city. In light of the proposed budget, you could imagine there has been tons and tons of citizen activity. Thousands and thousands of people have participated in our budget hearings. One of the things we heard loud and clear was don't close senior centers, don't close youth centers. The core city services that we love to provide, do what you can to avoid that. As a result, the city manager has asked that the council at least consider certain revenue increases because of what's called the 60-day truth in taxation period. We had to at least affirm that we would analyze those to look at those so it could be included in next year's budget, and that's what we voted on. We didn't approve any particular fee increase, we didn't approve any particular revenue increase, but we did agree to at least put it out there so that we could legally consider it for this year's upcoming budget.
And we're talking things like water meter size and these sorts of things, correct?
Correct. For 21 years, we've had a fee on the water bill. It's been upwards of $2 in the past. We reduced it down. This mayor and council actually reduced it down to $1 because our jail fees were lower than expected. One of the potential options is to look at whether or not we ought to increase that fee. It's not part of the water system. It's a separate fee. It's just a way to get that out there in the community, to look at whether or not we ought to go back to a number that we were at just a couple years ago. That's one of the options. A few of the other options, of course, are, do we increase the fees that we charge residents to use our community health centers and workout facilities and things like that. One of the options is whether or not we ought to look at metered parking for the premium parking spaces at some of our parks and preserves. Those are very popular places, and so whether or not the very best locations ought to raise a little revenue. We're looking at whether to do market-based costing on our downtown parking meters, so that if you park outside a sporting event where the parking lot nearby is at $20, should it be a bargain just because you happen to find a spot at the meter, or should we have meter pricing that reflects that? That could raise some revenue for the city. So we're looking at a variety of options, and that's the process we're going through right now.
And again, the rec centers, rec passes, recreation passes, senior center passes, lighting fees, as you mentioned, and usage fees for athletic fields. What about restoring the food tax?
Okay, so restoring the food tax is not one of the options that is being looked at by this council. When I became mayor, obviously, one of the issues that had been on the table for a long period of time was this issue of the food tax and the commitment that we would end the food tax by March 2015. Commitment to do it earlier if we could do it in ways that didn't hurt public safety or core city services. Last year, we made a very important decision, and that was to reduce the food tax by half. And the idea is that it's sort of a glide path down. We know we're going to eliminate it at the latest in May of 2015. By eliminating half of it this year, we sent a strong message that we are going to accomplish that very important policy goal of the city. So the food tax is not one of the issues that we're looking at for next year's budget.
Not one of the issues you're looking at, but what if a number of residents, and I've heard that quite a few residents have come forward, you have these budget hearings in order to hear from the public. The public says, bring back the tax. We'd rather have the tax in closing community centers and recreation centers and swimming pools and the whole 9 yards. Will you reconsider?
Well, we have heard from literally thousands of residents, and I personally have been at a number of these budget hearings. By the way, if you haven't had a chance to attend one, every single one is put on video and is online and people can watch it. One of the changes I made when I became mayor was to make this process as fully transparent as possible. So every single statement by elected officials, every single statement by the public is now captured on video and put on the city's website. We've obviously heard from thousands of residents who have said that do what it takes to make sure we don't close senior centers, do what it takes to make sure we don't close youth centers and some of the other core city services that we have provided. I think that's exactly why we are looking at revenue for the city, at least taking in input from the public. But I had made a commitment as we went through the process last year, and certainly in years past, that the food tax was not one that we were going to look at. We're going to eliminate it at the end of May of 2015. And so, look. We made a commitment on that, and I plan to fulfill that commitment.
I know some are saying, you know, the passes and fees and water meter sizes and this sort of business is one thing, but the number one thing, employee costs, that needs to be addressed first. Your thoughts?
Well, we are in the middle of labor negotiations with our labor groups. We're getting towards the end of that labor negotiations, and so those very, very important issues are going to be before this mayor and council in the not too distant future. In years past, for 40 years, we have always reached agreement at the bargaining table through a meet and confer process with our labor groups. I don't know if we're going to be able to do so this year. I know this, as mayor, I stand ready to do the right thing with regard to our labor groups, even if we have to vote as a mayor and council. I'm not going to prejudge that. I want to make sure the process, the meet and confer negotiation process goes to the very last minute. But if it not, then I will stand prepared as mayor to make the necessary changes so that we can do the right thing, including, by the way, ending of pension spiking. We did vote to do that at the end of last year. We did that for our management employees that we directly have say over without going through meet and confer. We felt for the rank and file employees that it was appropriate, since we were in the middle of a contract year, to end pension spiking with the start of a new contract, and we're going to fulfill that commitment.
So for those who say too much in the way of salaries, there's too much out there in the way of sick days, too much out there in the way of vacation days, too much out there in the way of retirement, that these other things, these fees and such, those are stopgap measures. You and the council have to get serious about some of these bigger budget items. Again, I think people want to get your impression on where you stand on some of these things.
Absolutely. Well, if you've not been paying attention to what's going on in City Hall since I have been mayor, when it comes to changes to our pension system, no mayor in the history of the city of Phoenix has made more changes to our pension than I have as mayor. We have engaged in a serious pension reform effort that has required new employees to pay 3 times as much as existing employees in order to gain the pension. And you know the legal issues associated with making changes for existing employees. We did pass just last year significant pension spiking changes so that we would end pension spiking in the city of Phoenix. We've done that for some of our senior employees and our management employees, and now we're making those changes for our rank and file employees. We've already made that decision, and I would argue you should have me back on, which hopefully I get back on in a month or so after we voted on our labor agreements, and then we can have a more thorough discussion of labor costs in addition to the pension issues, and see where we are. Look, this mayor and council, the majority of this mayor and council, we're not going to demagogue on these issues. We're not going to give speeches to try to score political points. We're going to roll up our sleeves, do the heavy lifting, and do the right thing for the people of this city.
I think, and again, the majority of the council, there are some of the council who think very differently than you do regarding employment costs and pensions and these sorts of things. And I think what a lot of folks, they don't want to hear demagogue in one way or the other, but they do want to get a clear idea of where the city needs to go, especially beyond what, again, seem like stopgap measures. $38 million budget deficit, they're not fooling around here. I mean, something's got to be done. The trial budget, I think by the city manager, had pools closing. What are your thoughts about that trial budget?
Well, I think that by the very fact that we are looking at, even open-minded to revenue changes within the city, that budget and the proposal in the budget is not acceptable to me. I'm not going to be mayor where we close senior centers across the city, close pools so that our youth don't have those incredible opportunities that I had. I'm a local kid who grew up in West Phoenix in a working class family. Those city services, youth centers, public swimming pools, community centers, those are the exact things that I was lucky enough to have as a Phoenix kid growing up in West Phoenix. So we're going to work this out in a way I believe that does not involve those proposals that would really hurt this community.
Last question on this: has anyone figured out why those revenue projections were so out of whack? I mean, this the $38 million budget deficit, in part, last time you were here, you mentioned in part, that in great part was that projections didn't pan out. Do we know why they didn't pan out, and is someone else doing the projecting?
That's a fair question. Look, just a few years ago, as you remember, this city had a $300 million budget deficit. I had to vote as a council member on a over $100 million budget deficit. And this council has consistently made the tough choices, the right choices relative to the future of this city. And so, look, $38 million is nothing to sneeze at. There's some real challenges associated with that. We've got to keep this in perspective. We're going to do the right thing to protect those core city services that the community relies on. We're going to make those tough choices as we always have. Look, with the last city manager, should he have brought this issue to our attention a little bit earlier, the reality is we would have had to make some of these cuts or choices during the last budget cycle. I certainly, myself and Councilman Gates, wrote a memo to our city manager saying doing it this way is not acceptable. We have to be much more transparent in how you come up with your budget projections. And if we have tough choices to make, let's make them as early as possible. The longer you hold off on those decisions, the tougher it is going to be. So if we have to make choices in the middle of the budget year, then so be it. We're leaders, and that's exactly what we should be doing. The reality is that we're going to get through this budget in a smart way that does not involve these significant cuts to core city services. I wouldn't be doing my job as mayor if that were to occur.
Before we let you go, I know you've been pushing for this gender pay equity, pushing for contractors to do. How is this a municipal issue? How do you enforce something like this? And are there so many variables in here between hours worked and uninterrupted work and the nature of work? And what are you getting into here?
All right, well, good news, bad news. Good news is on the issue of gender pay equity, Arizona is better than the national average. National studies show that Arizona is one of the better states in that regard. But I think for most people watching this show, having any kind of gender pay equity issue is not acceptable to them. It's certainly not acceptable to me. So I've asked an incredible council member, a new member of my council, Councilwoman Kate Gallego, to lead the way. She's going to bring together businesses, including many people who do contracting with the city. She's going to bring together leaders in our community and bring together the appropriate city staff. And we're going to craft a plan to ensure that at least as those that do business with the city of Phoenix, that we don't have a gender pay equity issue. Look, Congress has got to deal with this issue on a federal level, and that is above my pay grade for folks in Washington, D.C. I wish they would do more on a lot of issues. But as mayor, I'm going to do what I can and should do on this critically important issue. So I don't want to prejudge the great work that I know Councilwoman Gallego is going to do, but that's what I've tasked her to do. She's embraced that task, so stay tuned.
All right, last point on this. You know what your critics are saying? They're saying that all this gender pay equity, you're just deflecting from the budget concerns. How do you respond to that?
You know, I deal with a lot of issues at the City of Phoenix. Do you know we're going to open up a trade office in Mexico, a trade and tourism office as a City of Phoenix? City of Phoenix is taking some incredible leadership roles on the issue of sustainability. Do you know we're going to be the first city in the country to have a sustainability incubator at one of our transfer stations? The list goes on and on.
You're not deflecting again now here, are you?
A great mayor, a great city has to multitask. As the mayor of the city, I deal with so many issues that try to advance the interests of our city. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And at the same time, we're going to appropriately deal with the budget as our city, as we've balanced the budget of our city every single year. That critique of adopting anything other than the budget, any policy proposal that we put forward, heck, in my State of the City speech, I spoke very broadly about the need to create a technology-based, export-based economy, an innovative economy. And even some of the critics then said, that's not the role of the mayor. That's exactly the role of the mayor. And a great mayor has to be one who can multitask on many issues at the same time. And that's what I plan to do.
Well, we plan on having you back on next month. Let's maybe get some more information on that budget and get down to brass tacks. But it's always a pleasure. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Keeping Children Safe, Ask an Expert is a special program that airs tonight at 8 p.m. on 8 Arizona PBS. During the show, viewers can call in and talk to an expert about issues pertaining to child abuse and human trafficking. Here to help preview tonight's program is Maricopa County Juvenile Court Presiding Judge Colleen McNally. It's good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's, we're going to get into this, I'm sure, here later on this evening, but as an overview, what is child abuse? Define that term.
Well, child abuse is defined by Arizona law as the hurting of a child. I mean, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and although it's a different phrase, child neglect, it's important to know that most of the cases that come to our court involve child neglect.
Interesting. Now, has this definition of child abuse, has it changed over the years?
You know, it has. The legislature has taken a look at it a few times, and it's expanded in some respects. Child abuse often is, there are mandatory reporters that are required to report any signs of child abuse when they see them. Most of those people are people that have come into contact with children regularly, like police officers, school teachers, nurses, doctors, those sorts of people. So,
and as far as trends now in Arizona, do they mirror what's happening around the country? Are things a little bit different here as far as child abuse, the prevalence and the nature?
Well, what's going on in Arizona right now is different than what's going on in the rest of the country. We've had a huge growth in the reports of child abuse and neglect, a huge increase in the number of children who have been removed from their homes because their homes are not safe for them. And what's interesting is that's happened in every county in Arizona, but it's not happening in every state. Most states have a downward trend while we're going up.
Do we know why?
That's what everybody wants to know. We're trying to figure it out. Certainly there have been changes in the last few years in the funding for preventative services. That's certainly a factor that's playing into it. as a judge hearing cases, one of the things I started looking at was wondering, well, are they just removing children they shouldn't be removing? Are we going to look at these petitions and say, oh, there's an overreaction because there's a lot of publicity about child abuse or neglect? And as anecdotally, I never saw that. There were very serious cases, and even though the high majority, like 90%, involve neglect, it's serious neglect. It's neglect of children's basic needs: food, clothing, medical care, educational needs.
And we hear that abuse is more likely by someone the child knows. Is that true?
That's correct. There was a study of what was going on in Arizona, and 95% of the abuse is caused by family members or people in the home.
So with that in mind, if you're a neighbor, if you're a family member a little bit removed, what are the signs you look for, and when do you know that not only is something wrong, but something needs to be reported?
Well, I think it's important for people to rely upon their common sense and their sense perception. You know, certainly if you see a child who's got unexplained injuries, that's certainly a call that should be made. But I think it's important for everybody to realize in our community that these are all our kids. And if you're seeing children that aren't getting to school regularly, they're too young and they're not being supervised, when they're not having their basic cleanliness, hygiene needs, those are signs. That might not be specifically neglect.
Right.
I mean, all our kids get dirty. But if you're seeing that as a trend, it's okay to say, hey, somebody should look at this to make sure these children are being cared for.
Certainly a red flag and something to keep an eye on and maybe make a call or two on.
Absolutely.
All right, I know human trafficking is something we'll talk about in the show coming up here. In general, is that a problem we're seeing more of in recent years?
We certainly are paying more attention to it, and it's the kind of issue that is often hidden. The children who are victims of human trafficking often don't want to talk about it. So it could have been as prevalent earlier as it is now, but we're paying more attention, we're asking more questions, and we're delving into it more to figure out who are these victims and what can we do to help them.
Yeah. There have been efforts, very publicized efforts, to overhaul Arizona's child welfare system. From where you sit, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's terrible that we had the kind of tragedies that were occurring by cases not being investigated and children not being seen after reports were made. But it's the kind of crisis that creates an opportunity, and it's kind of exciting to see everybody coming around the new division of Child Safety and Family Services and figuring out how we can collaborate, how we can work together to improve things. And there's a level of openness that I've never seen in our child welfare organization or system from Director Flanagan, Charles Flanagan. Mm-hmm. He's really brought a lot of energy and a lot of openness that I think is going to help improve things.
And he comes from the juvenile system, does he not?
Yes, he does. He was the director of the Juvenile Department of Corrections, and he made a lot of really substantial changes to that organization.
I know that other states have similar problems, and again, I've often mentioned, even on this program, why aren't we looking at other states that might be handling this situation a little bit better than we are, which is not very difficult to imagine? I mean, is that something that you think would be a wise idea? I mean, until you get your feet on the ground, model yourself after someone else and take it from there.
I certainly think it's a good idea, and I do think there are efforts in that regard. What I've learned from the meetings that I've been attending with other stakeholders is that there's not a take off the shelf product in another state where we could just do everything that they're doing and have a system that works. But there are several interventions and programs that are evidence-based that we could take, meaning that evidence-based means they've been proven to be effective.
Yes.
And frankly, we haven't always looked at our programs and interventions in that way. So I really think that we're taking a new look and we're going to approach that in a much more thoughtful manner.
Is there something, when you're presiding over these cases and you're listening to this stuff over and over again, is there something that, like one thing you think to yourself, I sure wish we would do this?
Well, what we're finding, the more we look at the parents of children who have been abused or neglected, overwhelmingly they have substance abuse addiction and dependence and mental illness, often untreated mental illness. I think it's really important that we take that step back to figure out what are the issues that need to be addressed there, and also to realize that when we really look closely at these folks, many of them were traumatized when they were young children. Perhaps they didn't get the kind of care that they needed, so they didn't learn how to parent the right way. And if we don't address that, we're going to look at either continued problems with these children or the new children that they have down the road.
And you referred to this earlier in the program regarding preventative family services and these sorts of things. Those things have to be stepped up, don't they?
Absolutely. We need to be looking at connecting people to our communities. Even in a big urban place like Phoenix, where we have lots of resources, people are often adrift. They don't know where their family support center is, where they could actually get some advice and help with young children. They don't know that they can ask for help themselves when they have a stumble in their substance abuse. Often it doesn't happen until there's a crisis and the children have been harmed again.
So real quickly, it sounds the overhauling of the child welfare system, you sound optimistic about it.
I am. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been, and I practiced as a lawyer. I represented CPS actually more than 20 years ago. And some things have improved in those 20 years, but there's a lot to be done, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to get there.
Well, very good. Judge, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And tomorrow on Arizona Horizon, an update on what could be an early wildfire season in the state. And we'll learn about a new report critical of the governor's moratorium on new regulations. That's Tuesday evening, 5:30 and 10 on Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.